Hey guys, welcome to another episode of East Coast Rams podcast. I'm your co-host Ashton here with my awesome co-host Zach. Yeah, guys, we are gonna react a kind of raw reaction here after our divisional loss to the Eagles. This one hurts, I would say, Zach, compared to some of the other losses, and we'll just kind of jump into this. Compared to some of the other playoff losses the Rams have had against the Packers, against the Falcons, and I can think of other few ones. This one hurts the most because I was almost certain we were going to win it at the end, and it felt like kind of that storybook ending that this team has been used to during the regular season. What's your kind of reaction to this game? Heartbreaking loss.
Yeah, definitely heartbreaking. The Rams had a lot of momentum in this game. Their defense, I thought, played pretty well against this Eagles team. Um, but let's just say this wasn't a perfect game. Offensive side of the ball, and there was a lot of blame to go around. But again, like you said, this game should have been won. We had the chance at the end, missed the opportunity to do so. Um, so this one definitely does sting. It stings a lot worse than some of the other ones, and maybe it's just because of that kind of how that Cinderella feeling, like hey, we were a 1-4 team, became the divisional champs, uh, and then we make it to the divisional round against the Eagles, who are just looking to again just stomp us again for a second time in the season. And I think the Rams just had the momentum for us. We were back to healthy. Um,
Mm.
and we should have won this game. The weather didn't help us, but I don't think it hindered us as bad as actually. I think it hindered the Eagles more in a lot of ways. But this one definitely is going to sting for a little bit.
I think it hindered us more because I saw a lot more of our people falling down. I don't know if that was a equipment issue, but I noticed a lot more Ram players falling down than Eagle players. Now, maybe I didn't see them, but ultimately, you got to be prepared and ready for the weather. And some of the drops by both teams were like, you just can't do that. I think some of the Eagles drops was because Hertz was kind of throwing a little bit too hard, but either way, you
I
got
mean,
to be prepared for the kind of weather in that situation.
you do, but I think Stafford had more control over it. I mean, he
Yeah.
was 26 for 44, 324 yards. Our defense, stood Jalen Hurts, only 15 receptions for 128 yards. So keeping him to under 150 yards is really impressive. And I do think that the weather did hinder Hurts a lot. Again, a lot more than he did for Stafford. Um, but I think we also have more of the offensive, the wide receiver threats um, than uh, than the Eagles have.
That Puka catch, man, that was surreal.
There was a lot of great catches. I mean, Puka had the really great catches. Cooper Cup had some really clutch catches. Higby
Yeah.
had some catches. Robinson, we got one from Tutu towards the end. Like when they were trying to get things moving. This Rams team seemed to play a lot better when they were in the hurry up offense instead of always just using up the clock. And I just wish they would speed things up a little bit. They always seem to have the momentum going when they were able to kind of speed up the game a little bit.
Yeah. So let's kind of respond to this comment. Hack KV hack, a bad game plan, but still hung tough. Had a great chance. Great year. Yeah. I definitely agree with you in the sentiment. Like we had a great year, had the chance to win the game. But let's be clear. Outside of the last 5 minutes, this offense was anemic. Outside of one drive, it was kind of shockingly shameful that they did not adjust quicker in the second and third quarter. And this team has normally been really good at adjusting at halftime, and you got to give the Eagles defense some credit for the most part, but I think it was more us shooting ourselves in the foot. the drops on one drive totally killed drive. We had a holding penalty that killed another drive that you can't have. And it's just, this game was a perfect encapsulation of the entire season in my mind, Zach. You had the defense, for the most part, give up a lot of big plays, but in critical moments, got the stops they needed and made the big plays they needed to keep this team having a semblance of a chance to win. And they did that. And then when it becomes crunch time, this offense still can't do anything. The defense bails them out again. And then at the very last moment, they find, basically when it's too late, they find their rhythm. They go down the field. They get a touchdown. They go down the field again. And yeah, you can give McVay some, like, he should have ran the ball. Higbee was open. Limmer had a good game. He messed up in 3 or 4 plays, but in the biggest snap of his career to this point, he didn't block Jalen Carter, and that would have been a touchdown. And the Rams would have won the game.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I don't want to. There were too many mistakes on all sides of the ball. Whether you say like the defense, did the defense have a really good game? Yes, but they had 3 huge misses that cost 40+ gains on 3 touchdowns.
It was 3 plays.
It doesn't matter.
Just
3
3
plays that caused 3 plays that caused the touchdown. I don't care what you say. This defense, yes, they did. They played really well. They kept them, but 3 plays to allow a 40-yard run touchdown is inexcusable. And those are the things that the defense are going to have to clean up to be in a better position. They have been doing great outside of this, keeping teams to low scores over the last several weeks. To come into this game, though, you knew you're going to have to hold Saquon Barkley. And when they put all effort on it, then they let Jalen Hurts. You have to be able to plan for both, especially when you have 2 runners. They eliminated the receivers in this game. They played perfectly to that. But when it came down to the 2 biggest players on that team, the 2 biggest threats, A.J. Brown, whatever you want to say, I don't think he's a big threat. Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts was the threat. And on several of those on Saquon's, I think, second touchdown, they went an all-out blitz on them, which caused them to leave him open and be able for him to go down for that touchdown. Again, there were offensive mistakes. Obviously, Stafford, the handoff to Williams that made them go into a field goal. That wasn't great. Obviously, the fumble that Kyren Williams did, not great. Stafford had his own fumble, not great. So there's, outside of really special teams, they really had a rough game on both sides of the ball. And yes, there were more explosive plays, it feels like, on the defense because they were able to get to Jalen Hurts. They were able to, disrupt them and be able to, get the offense another chance. But again, it's both sides of the ball played not the greatest football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you saw this across all the divisional winners. The losers all had better offensive performances. They just had more turnovers. And all the losers, if you had more turnovers, you lost the game. And that was the common thread. And I'm not going to put it all on Kyren. Kyren has had, I think it's been a little overblown, but he does have a somewhat fumbling issue. I mean, you got to be blind not to see that. And it's not all on him. And guys, you should never at a player or I never understood why people would be toxic like that. Like, you're not going to make the player be better by harassing them. That's just kind of silly. But you look at this offense and it's missing a lot of holes. Both the offense and defense are missing holes. And this team was doing its best with what they had. And it was spunky and we had fight. And I'm very proud of them. Don't get me wrong. I think both me and Zach, this team overshot our expectations. And everyone should give them flowers for it. They should be going to the NFC Championship right now. But the reason we're not is because of those holes. And you got to address them if you want to win a Super Bowl. Because I feel like more and more, even if we would have went to Super Bowl, Zach, or went to championship, I don't think we're winning 2 games. This team was always that type of team that had ups and downs, especially on offense. And you just
I
can't win a Super Bowl that way.
I honestly disagree. I think that they could have gone to the Super Bowl if they could have made this. I mean, the Commanders, yes, they're explosive on the offense, but I think our team can go up against their defense and be able to handle business. And I think that our defense plays well, that they could have made Jaden scramble a lot more. They would have closed the loop on him. I think 1 sack on him, he would have been a little bit more timid in the run play, just because he's a rookie. And again, and then going on to the other side, I mean, obviously we took care of the Bills once, and the Chiefs, we're going to have to deal with how the refs handle them. But I think that this team could have gone to the Super Bowl and should have gone to the Super Bowl. Going back to Hack's comment, it was a sunshine game plan. I do agree. I thought we got really pass heavy. And did it work out in some instances? Yes, we got good plays by Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and things like that. But when you were going, into the halftime, Kyron Williams was averaging 7.1 yards a carry, and we just wouldn't give it to him. And this was before the fumble happened. So, again,
Well, he did have a fumble in the first half.
Yeah, but that was more. I don't know if that was on Kyron or if that was on Stafford. That one was a weird one where it was not. I don't know if it was supposed to be a toss or it was supposed to be held in. I don't know. I'm calling that one kind of a wash. It could be either one of them. But I do agree. I do think that they did kind of get away from the run, not utilizing, the tight ends as much in the second half when it really started becoming, when you saw players slide all over the place and you saw, D-Rob and Cooper Kupp and, even Puka, they slid. I really do think that they just kind of got away from that. But again, I will say though, when they got down into the 5 minutes, when they scored the touchdown and then went back again, they were successful in the run or in the pass game. So I don't know. I wish they would have utilized Kyron a little bit more. I think he had more momentum to go in the snow. Yes, he had really that bad fumble that really I think caused a momentum shift. But I don't know. I do think that it was more of a sunshine kind of game plan. They didn't focus so much on. They wanted to give it to the hands of Matthew Stafford, and that's what they did. That's the game that they did.
Yeah, I agree with that, Falco. The big holes with this defense has been the linebacker playing. Don't get me wrong, Spates had a great play to get a fumble, which arguably 6 times out of 10, you get a fumble 6 off of that. That's another part of the game we have to acknowledge. The Rams just got unlucky with fumbles. The Eagles had 2 really bad fumbles that just didn't pop our way, and they had 2 fumbles that did. Sometimes that's just the ball going your wrong direction, and you add that on top of the fact that the linebackers, for the most part, were overshooting the gaps, not filling in time, and Saquon on those outside zone runs just gashing us with those 2 long touchdowns, and that's just unacceptable, especially after the fact that you had the same offense on tape, and they couldn't throw, so they were even more one-dimensional than last time. So
Yeah,
it's just the safety play and linebacker play has to be better.
It does. I mean, we also lost Brandon Fisk after the first quarter. Again, that didn't help the situation. But again, as you said, it was 3 bad plays that I think the defense had. It just unfortunately caused them. It didn't cause them as many points because I would say it only caused them 19 points because there's 2 missed field goals or extra points. Which I don't know how you missed 2 extra points, but you didn't miss any of the field goals in the snow. But whatever. Those 3 plays caused 19 points. And again, if we would have stopped the run on 1 or 2 of those, maybe this game would have been vastly different as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why this defense this year wasn't a top 5 defense, because of these kind of like lack of containing explosives and like not being able to completely contain mobile QBs. But next year, when we get some upgrades, start signing some free agents that can fill in some of those holes, Zach, I think this defense can be top 5. Our D line was top 5.
100%.
Yeah, like the Rams were what, Zach? 3 sacks away from the postseason record with only 2 games. Only 2 games. It's a nut stat. They probably would have broke it if they win against Washington. Probably would have broke it. So this is a team where our D line talent is nuts. And it's very exciting going into next year. If they can fill in the holes, especially get a starting linebacker, Spates will be good for rotation. Roseboom will be decent for rotation. Get another starting safety. I don't hate Lake. I feel like Lake is a good rotational player, but
Oh, no,
man,
no,
he
no, no.
just missed too many tackles, man.
No, I'm going to disagree with you on that one.
I
Quentin Lake is going to be the sole, besides Jared Verse, I really think that Quentin Lake is going to be the vocal point of this Rams defense moving forward. I think he really understands how his voice can play to this, and maybe he had a bad game, but again, this is winter conditions. It's going to be tough for almost any team to really play with everything you got in this kind of environment. And so, one again, I'm not blaming one person for one bad game. I think Quentin Lake has had an excellent season all year, and a missed tackle here or there in conditions like that. I don't know. I think it's pretty challenging for me. I think Quentin Lake has
but
been a decent player, and I don't want to see a change in his role.
I'm just saying it's been an issue with run defense all year. For the most part, big time running backs, like I would say against lesser competition, we do really good job about bottling up the run. But against like your Saquons, your Camaras, we were really, really not good, and we would allow explosives consistently. And that's something you need an all-star safety to really fix. And I feel like I like Curl and I like Lake. I think they're both good. They're just not great, and that's the difference. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you need
I
great
know.
players.
I mean, but if you look at he was one of the top five. If you look at the PFF scores, he was still the top five of the defense playing last night.
Yeah, in coverage, I think they're both great in coverage. I'm talking about like run. Now, you could say some of that's on D line because they've had bad gap integrity all year, bad contain. I would definitely agree with that fact. Uh, don't. Uh, yeah, we'll talk about the offense here in a few seconds with and kind of like what we think about Kyron and that stuff going in the future. But this defense just has to fill in those roles. I definitely think linebacker, like I said, Zach Spates made one good play the entire game. He made a few other good stops, but it was a little bit too little too late after those two big Saquon runs. I really feel like if we would have got the lead in the fourth quarter, we were going to win the game. It just felt that way after the third quarter. Eagles looked like they could not move the ball to save their life. And we just let their only player who had been able to do anything since first quarter just run all over us, and it's unacceptable. As simple as that. You want to talk about Kyron? About his specific
Here's the
game?
thing. I don't have a problem with Kyron Williams. I, a lot of people want him gone. They think that he's been the most successful running back that we've had since Todd Gurley. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, consistency. Um, yes, he's had a total of 5 fumbles this season. Saquon Barkley, he's had 3, so he's had 2 worse, or 2 something like that, 2 or 3 worse than Saquon. Um, I get it. I get it. You don't want to fumble the ball. I understand that. But over 300 carries, 1,299 yards, 16 total touchdowns. When 14 of those were rushing touchdowns. I don't see how you move on from this player. Do I think that you need someone to complement what he can do? Absolutely. Do I think that he's not the most explosive player running back out there? Yes.
Do you think he should be
know,
re-signed?
He's still under contract. He's still under his rookie contract. He
Well,
has another year
I'm
left.
saying, like, at the end of his rookie contract, would you re-sign him?
I want to see what he does next season. I'm not gonna. If he goes backwards, then maybe we shouldn't try that out. But he's still under contract for a year. I have no doubt that he is still RB1 until he is proven otherwise.
So if he has the same season as this season and has another, let's say, wild card game, and he has a fumble in it, like, is that an issue if he keeps on fumbling in playoff games?
Potentially. But I got to see the whole picture. I'm not, I hate speculating. Speculating is one of my least favorite things to do. But what I have seen from him right now, I have no concern with continuing him to be the bellwether.
Yeah, hopefully that's something he works on.
I think that again, there's a lot of things that you can fix. I think you can fix the fumbling problem. If you listen to his post, his conference today when they were cleaning out their locker rooms, he understood what happened. When he revisited in his mind the way he ran, he realized he did not have it in the right arm, and that it was a good punch. I rewatched that play about 10 times in a row, and it was just a solid punch into a side that he wasn't anticipating. I don't think he saw that defender there. He should have got the block. He didn't. The guy punched it out. It was a solid punch. I don't think you could have said, why didn't he keep 2 hands on it? That wasn't where he was at yet. He wasn't at the point that he thought that he was getting tackled or he was going to get hit. He thought he was going to get the block, and he was moving away from the person. So I think, again, rewatching that play, I don't think he saw it coming. It was a good punch. I think he would have protected the ball if he would have known that he was about to get attacked.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
In slippery winter conditions.
There's not really much of a point of this conversation because he's going to remain the starter. And we already have a good backup in Corum, so we'll kind of see how both work out next year, and then we'll have that conversation before next draft and before next offseason. That's more of like the timing of that. But talking about the wide receivers, Zach, outside of some big splashy plays in the first quarter, in the fourth quarter, it was a really rough second and third quarter for these wide receivers. A lot of drops and a lot of just falling over, a lot of miscommunication with Stafford. I agree with AMS. We need a number 2 wide receiver. I love Cup, and I feel like he made plays. You can still see he has some of that juice left. I don't think we should trade or cut Cup. We should restructure his contract, and we need to draft a wide receiver in the first 3-4 rounds. I truly believe that.
I have been thinking about this for the last 24 hours. And this is not really a wide receiver. It's more on Stafford. Stafford seems to really just get into having one receiver. And then that's kind of his focal point. And I think we see that each and every week is that he's trying to feed it to Puka. Back in 2021, he was feeding it to Cooper Kupp. And I think that it also causes sometimes a little bit more of a blindness into it. That's just how it seems. It feels like there are times when Cooper Kupp is wide open and they throw it somewhere else. Again, last night there was a couple open plays. Even when Higbee, I think, had a touchdown. I think Cooper Kupp also got open as well. So again, me personally, never want to see Cup leave the team. I do hope that they can figure something out so that he can remain a Ram. Today, after their post interview, post clean out, I guess, um, he doesn't know what his future holds. He knows that he would like to be in LA, and but he does know he's going to play football next season. So it's going to
Mm,
be up to the Rams to figure out what that looks like moving forward.
yeah.
I've said this week after week. I think he provides more than just being a high level receiver. I think he's one of the main reasons why Puka is the way he is. Um, and maybe an off-season workout with Whittington, you know, and or Robinson or something. I just feel like there's more left that he has to play, and I think we need to get.
Mm.
I just want to see. I don't know. I don't know. I think that he's not the problem. I think that they need to figure something else out.
Yeah, and like I said, I think we need to draft a wide receiver. I personally wouldn't re-sign Robinson. I feel like he has had good moments and I like him. I wouldn't be upset if we signed him. I just I think we need a for our wide receiver room, we need someone to kind of raise that level as a wide receiver too. And I feel like Cup has taken somewhat of a drop and his consistency isn't going to be there anymore. He's still consistent blocking, but his route running and separation hasn't. And I feel like we're going to need that next year. And we're going to also need to focus on getting a tight end that's a dynamic weapon. And you saw that somewhat when Higbee came up. It opened up a lot of stuff. But no offense to Higbee, he's not an elite dynamic weapon. And we saw like he caught that
Those are
8 yard.
fighting. Those are fighting words.
You say that, but like he caught that pass. What 8 yards short? Was he the one who caught it on second down? Uh, in the red
I think that
zone
was.
right
I think that was.
before
I thought that was
Puka.
Parkinson, but maybe
Oh, Parkin. He
it
caught the
might have been. It might have
touchdown
been
though.
Higby.
Yeah, I think Parkinson only caught touchdown, but I believe it was Higbee. He caught a pass, and like I feel like if it was a Brock Bowers, he would have got the first down there, and we wouldn't have gotten the position we got in. And I I'm still kind of stuck on us needing a really elite tight end. I feel like that would open up McVay's offense so much more. And don't get me wrong, I think Higbee is worth having around next year, but Parkinson way too inconsistent, and you can keep on trying to develop Davis Allen, but he kind of also didn't show much this year. So
I
that's my
mean,
opinion on tight ends.
just
So
knowing Higby was here for 3 regular games, he had more receptions and more targets. Just about he had one less target than Davis Allen, but he had more than Hunter Long and had more yards than both of them as well.
yeah,
So I agree with you. I want Higby, and we need to see a more dynamic second tight end. And we will have Parkinson on the roster just because we gave him a 3-year contract. Hunter Long is up; he'll be a free agent. And then I think Davis Allen's still on his rookie deal.
yeah,
Is that accurate? So,
yeah. He was
um,
drafted last year.
so obviously, I think we're going to see Higbee, Parkinson, and Davis Allen, unless that there's a trade that occurs. But that's kind of what I see, and maybe they'll pick up a fourth one in the draft.
Oh,
But
they
I
definitely are. They have tried to
you can,
get a tight end in the first round 2 years in a row.
yeah, you could definitely think that round one they're looking at an offensive weapon or an offensive player.
Yeah,
Which we'll
I
talk
would
about the
say
draft in the future. That's not a conversation I
yeah,
want to start up today.
yeah. I would definitely say they will. Wide receiver, I feel like is top heavy, but won't be where we're drafting. So we'll talk about that in future and kind of see how mocks really
But you
strain
could
out.
definitely tell, like, especially in these last 2 games, though, that Stafford is Puka is obviously his number one
Yeah.
target, 23 targets. Higbee was the second with 15. You know, you got Puka with 141 yards. This is just in the 2 games of the postseason, and Tyler Higbee with 112. Like, again, those are 2 really, really good players. And, you know, I could see us still going into the mix in the future. I'm really hoping that, obviously I think Tutu is going to fall off. I think he's a free agent. He's going to move away. But I
DeMarcus
do
is
think that
also a free agent.
he is. I do think that they try to resign him. Hey, if for nothing more, that he is also our good luck. He's also a good luck charm for getting into the playoffs. Going into his 10th season, 9 of them of which where all of his teams have been playoff bound. So, a couple million to guarantee yourself in the playoffs.
I mean, I would say that's more because he was on the Chiefs for a long time, and
Details.
details. Yeah, yeah, and they somehow keep on
And
finding ways.
and let's just say, like, Demarcus Robinson also said today, I forgot about this, but he did come out to say that he loves the organization, he loves the coaches, he would love to come back to be an LA Ram next season.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be upset if he came back, especially on a vet minimum deal. I think he's a good player, good depth piece, but again, I just think we need dynamic, elite wide receiver too. Like, I don't think T. Higgins would happen, but like, you need someone to kind of line the load on Puka, and you saw Puka was starting to get a way more double teamed this year, and it was affecting the offense. And I feel like the offense, it needs to be smoother and it needs to be
Well,
more consistent throughout the entire game and season. And
I will
those
say,
are some of the issues.
I think one of the things that hurt us a lot was so many substitutions. I mean, we were, man, oh
Ugh.
man, can we not stay consistent on the field? And, you look at our wide receiver core, and, like, we all love there. There's a lot of people who love Tutu Atwell. There's a lot of people who love Robinson. There's a lot of people who love Puka. There's a lot of people who love Whittington. There's a lot of people who love Tyler Johnson. Like, we have a long list of wide receivers, and it's good to have some depth pieces. But I felt like sometimes we were just trying to use these different pieces, and, like, we need a core 3, have an occasional rotation in there. But I want to see more of wide receivers 1, 2, and 3 playing more than 80% of the snaps on the offensive line.
Yeah, the consistency, we need people staying on there. What do you make of Kai Heck's kind of comment here saying Davis Allen is, I'm assuming who he's talking about, low PFF grades, inconsistent blocker, unable to catch a touchdown, which, let's be fair, I don't think I remember he probably should have got a PI on one of those. But in this game, he wasn't able to catch it. And cheap. I think we said this about Davis Allen a lot. Like, he's a young player that they've been trying to develop, and he's had sparks, especially last year. He had a lot of sparks,
2023.
and we saw potential. This year, not so much when he did get his reps on the field.
Yeah, and they're all just trying to fill that void of Tyler Higbee, and I don't think anyone could have filled that void. We tried with 3 different players. All 3 of those seem to be lackluster in those things. Colby Parkinson was probably not as bad as the other 2. He's definitely better, but again, out of all 3 of I think we're getting to the bottom.
They all just weren't as good as it should have been. Tight end room was a mess this year. It's the second highest paid tight end room in the NFL, and we did not get that production anywhere near it, and that has to change. Robinson was not even a good wide receiver 3. He gets lost for long periods of the game. I kind of agree with that to a certain extent. The consistency, he will be wide open some plays, and then other plays just get locked down, and you need more consistency.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think it goes back to, again, I think Stafford tends to favor 1 or 2 players more than others. When he sees more consistency of X or Y players being open more, he's going to be more prone to throw to those players. I think Robinson, obviously, he was really good in the first half of the season. And then when Puka and Cup came back, he was kind of the touchdown magnet in the receiving core, scored multiple touchdowns. Those were the only receptions he ever had, was those touchdowns, but he was really efficient in the red zone. The Rams it was hard for them to even get into the red zone the second half of the season, or the last quarter of the season, I would say, due to weather conditions and X, Y, or Z reasons why. And then obviously he had that incident that happened that I don't think that, really helped the situation out at all. And again, I just want to see more consistency on the field. I would, again, if he stays, that's great. If he doesn't stay, I will not be as heartbroken as if we would lose Cup.
Yeah, I am.
And I will be heartbroken. I will be probably in tears on this podcast because I would not want to talk about
it. Yeah. Let's talk about the O-line. The O-line, kind of like
you said this was going to be a short podcast.
Yeah. Up and down year, just like it was an up and down game. Now, I understand for first half year, there's a lot of injuries and stuff like that. Man, first off, Kevin Dotson, we love you on this podcast. Do not I thought he
don't
had
change, man. Don't change.
Yeah,
he's only been penalized
don't
twice
worry.
This whole season, he was penalized twice.
Yeah, and he's been great. He's been really good, and he was the best, most consistent O lineman for us for the pass and rush in all the games. I would say he had one bad game in the entire season. So put him aside. Rob Havenstein, I would say he had a good game. Had a bad hold, or I didn't even see the replay, but he had a holding call. Whether it was real or not, I don't know. But I'm assuming it was bad. He had a decent game. What do you think of Limmer? I think we mentioned it a little earlier ago.
Yeah, I mean, let's just remember, Limmer came in. He's a rookie.
Rookie.
Was not supposed to, initially, Steve Avila was going to be our center. Going from training camp into this, Steve Avila was going to be our center. Well, didn't really, somehow during during preseason they made a change, and now Jonah Jackson.
It was the week before the Lions game.
Yeah, Jonah Jackson was going to be now the center, and we were going to shift back. Then injuries occurred, and now we're moving around pieces, and then Bo Limmer comes into place.
Yeah, they move Avila back to be center because Jonah Jackson gets hurt. I can't keep track of all the movements. And then eventually they put in Limmer week 8. It was around the Bears game that
Steve
they
Avila
put him
got
in.
injured.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's lots of turnover, but in our offensive line, which why we were 1-4 for that first quarter of the season. But I think he has done the most admirable job that you can in a Sean McVay offense, and I think that he is going to get better from here. He made a couple mistakes that rookies tend to make when they're in the biggest games of the year. Again, he's a rookie. I think he's done a really great job at center. I think he can only get better from here. I don't think he's going to get worse.
It just sucks, Zach, because it would have just taken anything. Literally, the only thing Stafford needed on that third down play was a second to throw. He didn't even need 2 or 3 seconds. He just needed a second. And the only thing that would have stopped that was a wide open pass rusher straight through the line.
And we are assuming that we were assuming that he would have hit Higbee in that instance. He would have still tried to throw it to Puka. Again, we don't know what that play would have looked like if he would have had
I think he was the read man. He was looking straight at him. So again, even if he gets throw off, you're right. He could have missed him. Like he's done that. I would say 8 times out of 10 in that
He's
situation that someone that wide open, it's planned.
again, we're nitpicking, I think, and I don't know. I think Limmer has done an admirable job all season. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, he's done good.
why he would lose a job unless you got some Pro Bowler center coming in.
No, and unless we sign, which I don't know how many free agent Pro Bowl centers there's going to be in the offseason, but outside of that, I thought he did a good enough job to earn like more reps next year and see if he can grow because he had a good year. I would say he had learning pains, and especially in the run game, he kind of struggled a little bit run blocking. But for pass blocking, I thought he did a really good job. Uh, Now, he could have an issue with like kind of pass rushing games, and when they do a lot of the movement, I feel like he struggles to read that a little bit. But he's a rookie. He's going to grow. Avila, how do you think he did in this game?
Again, I think he did fine. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that they gave a lot of opportunities to make plays. There was just, there was some slipping and sliding. Players could not get their feet in the ground. They had to be careful turning the corner. I don't know. I think the offensive line did what they could with what they had in the winter remix. I'm going to go back to that probably every single time.
Yeah. Eagles seem to deal with it for the most part, but yeah, KV, he did, and for where he was drafted, great value, great pick, and even if he loses his job, he's going to be fantastic depth to have someone that good as a secondary. Like, I think he's already better than Noteboom. I think that's pretty clear. So, yeah, having
before we
Rob
finish,
was big too.
Yeah, no, I think having a healthy O line, I think definitely gave us the chance to win it. So, before we end this up, just recapping a couple things. We do have a list of free agents: Joe Noteboom, Alaric Jackson, Demarcus Robinson, Jimmy G, Michael Hoyt. Which I think is someone that they may look at trying to hold on to. I would definitely want to hold on to Alaric Jackson as well. You got Tutu Atwell, Christian Roseboom, John Johnson III, Hunter Long, Akilla Witherspoon, Connor McDermott, Laryl Murchison, Tyler Johnson, Troy Reeder, Neville Gallimore, Bobby Brown III, Ronnie Rivers, Jake Hummel, and Dylan McHoyne. Those last three are RFA, ERFA.
Do you not think Hoyt might have outplayed enough to kind of outplay like our budget there because we have so many young edge kind of players? I don't think they're gonna put enough money to kind of.
It depends. I mean, it depends on what Hoyt will take. It depends on what both sides could agree to. I think Hoyt has been excellent in a lot of areas, especially in the special teams area, blocking several punts.
Extra points.
Extra points. Was it just extra points, not a punt?
Nope.
Okay. Either way, I think he's done an excellent job, and I think he's one of those players who I think if you can get him for the right money, I think he's definitely a piece that you want to keep around. I will say it again. I'm on the Jake Ellenbogen track of Akilla Witherspoon. I think if you can make some sort of short-term deal work, I think he's a good piece that you want to keep in the building as well. Other than that, I would probably. Is he on? Did I say his name? Is he on this list? He's not on.
I think he signed a 2-year deal, but we can get out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know. I do like D. Will. But I do want to see us bring somebody in that spot
He struggled this year, man.
in a draft. He did. Um,
He struggled.
so the other person I want to see Bobby Brown back too. I think he's a
Yeah.
if we can make the
Yeah,
money.
Yeah. I feel like Bobby Brown, I know we re-signed Kier Thomas, so I'm really happy about that. I thought he started to play really good. Bobby Brown is good depth. I do feel like the rest of D line and edge group, we can kind of go young, save money there. I feel like we need to either sign a wide receiver, tight end, or cornerback, big name free agent at one of those three positions. Because I think we can get the other two in round 1 or 3, right? Give yourself some flexibility. Maybe you could sign a cornerback in free agency for a lot of money and then still go that route draft wise and kind of keep Witherspoon there to kind of like help tutor them and be a rotational guy. Because don't get me wrong, like both me and you said, like Witherspoon has been our best corner in the last 2 years. He's just not elite. Like he's been good. He's just like a boomer bust type of player. So.
Yeah. So it is what it is. So those are that. And then when we look to the draft, we're looking at being the number 26 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. So we got a lot going on over the next couple months. I think we're going to have a lot of news coming out. Players, who's going to stay, who's going to go. Is Matthew Stafford going to continue to be a Ram for the next 1, maybe 2 more seasons? Does he look for a new team, or does he just flat out retire? All questions that need answers. On top of what we're going to do with Cooper Kupp. Again, I think another fan favorite who I think a lot of fans would be fine moving on with him. If you were me, I personally, you can see my Cooper Kupp jersey right here. I have 2 of his jerseys. I will say keep him as long as you can. I don't know. To me, it'd be more upset losing him than Aaron Donald retiring. So it's just fan favorite of mine. But we have a lot going on between the drafts coming up, the combine, which is still in Indianapolis. So I still get to be hands on the ground for us there. Super excited about that. Hopefully we'll bring some guests on, kind of see where people are feeling going into this off season. So I'm looking forward to the future of the Rams because, again, with our young defense, I think that we have the potential to continue to make these good pushes. We just need to make sure that we have an elite offense and we have Sean McVay. We hopefully will keep on Matthew Stafford and continue that, make it to the promised land one more time. What was that for? What was the thumbs down?
No, I'm doing the verse thumbs down. I'm going to start doing that. That's going to be a signature verse thumbs down whenever he starts doing stuff. Oh man,
yeah.
Like you said, it's an exciting time because next year this young defense is only going to get better. I feel like we're going to sign and put 50 mil in free agency money into this team that we've had tied up and players not even playing for us. I feel like we do that every year compared to other teams. We just have dead cap on dead cap, 40 or 50 mil. So, like you said, Stafford will be interesting kind of conversation. I feel like he had a good year, kind of a down year for him, but even then, like I don't think he was the problem in playoffs. So, we'll see where it kind of goes from there. And if he moves on, Zach, that's going to be interesting offseason. That's going to be a really interesting offseason.
Yeah, I think I will say that if they move on from Kupp, I would expect an explosive pickup. They're going to go find somebody else to fill that spot in free agency. I don't think they're going to leave it to just being inside in-house or through the draft. I think if they're going to find someone to replace Cooper Kupp, they're going to go free agent.
You know who I thought about, and I've been kind of thinking a move that the Rams could maybe pull off. And if the Jaguars would be willing to eat some of the cap, Trevor Lawrence. I feel like he's the type of QB that McVay would be interested in. He likes those strong arms. He's accurate. He's been on a bad Jaguars team for most of his career. Has lacked weapons and still been able to produce at a steady rate. And I'm telling you, Rams fans, he's because I saw him in Clemson most of his college career. He's a baller, and he could be a cheap kind of QB pickup. You trade a fourth or
I'm
fifth
always
rounder for, who could be a starter.
I'm always hoping that Stafford just stays long enough to end Burrow's contract, and Burrow's like, yeah, I'm fed up with the Bengals, and then we get Burrow. That would just be the
Dude,
ultimate
that's never
to
gonna
the
happen.
Bengals fans.
That's
And then we win a
yeah.
Super Bowl with Burrow.
They would
It would just,
franchise tag him and make people trade for him before they allow that.
I think the Rams would trade for him.
Oh, dude, that you're trading a century of picks if you're getting Joe Burrow. You're trading 10 first rounders to get
It
him.
would, again, you're talking fantasy. I'm talking fantasy. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, hey, it's now the off season. We get to talk about fantasy, not actual football now. It's not as much fun, and it's a lot less pain, but
All
it's
right.
gonna be a
Well, I
good
think
time.
it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up with this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Ashton, anything else you want to say before we officially close it out?
Thank all of you for joining in live and having a very active chat. It was a lot of fun,
Hey,
and I hope you guys
we love
enjoyed
it.
participating.
Hey,
Awesome.
we love it every time you guys participate. Well, we're going to wrap this episode of the East Coast Rams podcast up. Thank you again to all of our live listeners, as Ashton mentioned. Please go check us out on YouTube, where you can find us there when we go live, youtube.com/@eastcoastrams. You can find us on X @eastcoastrams, on Threads and Instagram @eastcoastramspod, and make sure you check us out on Blue Sky. We post all of our content everywhere so that you can find it wherever you, except for TikTok, because we don't know if it's up or down or left or right. So we're just going to stick with the normals. Yeah, and with that, not sure what our schedule is going to be like over the next couple weeks, but we will keep you posted on all of our socials. So make sure that you are following us. And with that, we wrap up the 2024 regular and postseason of the LA Rams and the East Coast Rams. So we will see you guys next time.